So, good morning once again, ladies and gentlemen. Today we shall discuss the topic on inference or reasoning in our logic class. So, what is an inference? An inference, also known as argument or reasoning, is a mental operation wherein the mind moves from two or more statements or propositions called premises to a conclusion or truth which is implied by the former. Inference is classified as either mediate or immediate. So the other term for inference is reasoning or argument, which is based on the premises or categorical propositions or declarative sentences. So it is preceded usually by one or two declarative sentences, and it is followed by a conclusion, and that is what we call inference. It is mediate when the mind arrives at a conclusion drawn from two propositions or premises through a medium. Mediate inference is inference in the proper sense. This is the logical way, because the person arrives not only at a proposition but also at a new truth. Mayroong bagong katotohanan. In other words, there is an advancement in knowledge when one argues using the mediate approach or process. Example, all snakes are reptiles, and all reptiles are cold-blooded. An example ng mga reptiles, yung mga bayawak, crocodiles, etc. No? And then, therefore, all snakes are cold-blooded. Kaya nakatira sa ilog, o sa dagat, or sa swamp, no? Cold-blooded sila, no? Kahit nakapatay sila, cold-blooded pa rin sila. Yan. In the example above, the first two propositions are premises or categorical statements. And the last one is the conclusion, no? And then in the conclusion, therefore, no? Therefore is a word which signifies conclusion. All snakes are cold-blooded is not only a new proposition but a new truth as well, derived from the premises through a medium, which is in this case reptiles. The other kind of inference is called immediate inference. So from mediate to immediate inference, this is improper logic actually, no? Because the reasoning moves directly from one proposition to a new one, which is a mere reformulation of the same truth stated in the original proposition. Parang parang gift na binago ng LBC yung kanyang wrapping. Okay. Pero the same gift pa rin, no? This kind of inference is considered improper because the person does not arrive at knowledge other than the one already possessed. But this will clarify matters also, no? Because in our usual day-to-day conversation, we need to clarify things so that the agreement is clear. So we can have examples here. No? Jesus is the son of Mary. Therefore, no, you say Mary is the mother of Jesus. Of course, sometimes I encounter this because some people may say Mary is that the mother of Jesus. No? But you say, since Jesus is the son of Mary, therefore it always follows that Mary is the mother of Jesus. No? Even though Jesus called her woman, no, woman, of course, Jesus is using theological term uh, taken from Genesis. Number two, Judas committed a bigger sin than Peter. Therefore, Peter committed a smaller sin than Judas. Why? Anong kasalanan ni Judas? Deicide, no? Pinapatay niya yung Panginoon, ang Diyos. Peter denied his relationship with Jesus 3 times. Denial only. But the thing was that Judas committed suicide, adding insult to injury, but Peter admitted his sin, no matter how grievous, and Jesus has forgiven him. Mary is blessed among all women, therefore, all women are less blessed than Mary. Of course, uh, this mother of Jesus stands out as unique among all women. No woman in the history of the world has ever carried Jesus in her womb for 9 months and cared for Jesus until until his death, no, except Mary. Okay. Immediate inference may further be subdivided into two types. No? The oppositional inference consists in the movement of the mind from one proposition to another, both of which have the same subject terms and predicate terms. It involves the truth or falsity of the opposite propositions. So there is opposition, one is affirmative, the other is negative, or vice versa. The equivalence inference. So this is still under the immediate inference, also known as induction, consists in the reformulation of the original proposition into a new one, which is the exact equivalent of the former. If we use this in our grammar, we just say from the active voice to the passive voice, but it still refers to the same truthfulness or falsity of the sentence. Yan. Reformulation lang. Um, Now, we go specifically to the meaning of inference in its strict meaning or in its broad meaning. Inference or reasoning, uh, in its broad meaning, is any process by which the mind proceeds from one or more propositions seen to be implied in the former, no? From implication to explicitation, no? So from unclear statements to clearer statements. Then we have the strict meaning, the operation by which the mind gets new knowledge by drawing out the implication. So there is new knowledge, no, through inference, no, through reasoning of what it already knows. The mind knows something before it could reason out. No? So there are preceding premises. Uh, so the third meaning of inference, any series of propositions so arranged that the consequent flows from the antecedent. No? Consequent is the result. Antecedent is the one being talked about at the very beginning. The three essential constituents of inference must be all present. The antecedent, no? And then the consequent, the result, and the sequence from the antecedent to the consequent. So antecedent. The antecedent is the part of inference from which the conclusion is drawn or deduced. The antecedent may also be referred to as the premises. It is the starting point of reasoning. So premises can have two S's here, no, premises, no, premise. Not promise, no, promise is a different word. Okay. Consequent, no, we have the antecedent and then we have the consequent. The consequent is the part of the inference or reasoning which signifies the conclusion or the new knowledge derived from the antecedents. The consequent may also be referred to as the conclusion. So, aka also known as conclusion. That's the consequent. Okay. Antecedent, aka also known as premise. So the sequence. The sequence is the necessary connection between the antecedents and the consequent, no? Kung sa grammar ito, linking verb or auxiliary verb, no? That links the subject and the predicate, no? Itong sequence nito. So we have the chart here or the schema, no? The antecedent, the premises, then the consequent, the conclusion, and that's the inference. Mhm. Argument. An argument is any group of propositions of which one is claimed to follow from the others, which are regarded as providing support or grounds for the truth of the one. No? This is the essence of logic class, no? Inference or reasoning. No? From terms to propositions to inference or reasoning. No? The group of propositions becomes an argument if it follows a logical structure. It must have a conclusion and a premise or premises. No? So, premise if there is only one premise, or premises if there are two or more uh, propositions before the conclusion. For an inference to be valid, no, meaning to say acceptable or true, or logically true or logically valid, there must be a logical sequence. That is, a necessary connection must exist. Analyze the examples that follow. Okay. Trees are green, no? Color green, no? And then light is white, no? Naka-color ang white, no? Color coding. No? Therefore, I am a Lasallian. You say, that is nonsense. What kind of reasoning is that? No? Isang milya ang layo. Malayo sa, ano nito, malayo sa pinag-uusapan, no? So you might say, this person is crazy, no? I am talking about one thing, but he's talking about another thing. No? So the inference is invalid because there is no sequence. There is no reason how the consequent I am a Lasallian can be inferred from the antecedent. No, no relation at all. No? Unrelated propositions arriving at a wrong conclusion. Premise, it is daytime. Conclusion, therefore the sun is shining brightly. No? This is a fallacy called non sequitur. Meaning to say it does not follow. It is daytime, but as you can see today, it is gloomy. The sun is not shining brightly. So our weather today does not accept the argument that we have here now. That's why this argument is wrong or is invalid. Mhm. In the given example, the consequent does not flow from the antecedents. The inference is invalid because even though it is daytime, it does not follow that the sun is always shining. For instance, during a cloudy day. If you if we go to Iceland or other Scandinavian countries, no, sometimes they have a 24 hours darkness or 24 hours uh, light, no, because of the position of the sun against their um, their place, their country, no. So, pero it does not follow that the night is always dark or the day is always having a sun. No? Okay, so yun, clear example yun. Premise, some men are athletes. No? And then vice ganda is a man. Therefore, or so, vice ganda is an athlete. It does not follow because the qualifier here is some, meaning to say not all. This is particular, not universal. No? So vice ganda is a man, but it does not follow that vice ganda is an athlete. No? For example, if you say here, all men are athletes, vice ganda is a man, therefore vice ganda is an athlete. No? So the sequence is correct, but but the uh, but the major proposition, major premise is wrong. Not all men are athletes, right? Some men are just staying at home, they just ride in their car, etc. No, okay. Again, there is no sequence in this inference, hence it is invalid. Being a man does not necessarily mean being an athlete, no? Especially if you are sickly or if you are old. Mhm. In each of the given examples, there is no sequence. Hence, all of them are invalid. Now, study the examples that follow and take note of the sequence that makes its inference valid. ang hinahanap natin sa logic is validity of the inference or correctness of the reasoning process. All students are learners. Okay. Lasallians are students. Therefore, Lasallians are learners. Thus, Lasallians are learners. This is correct, class. So, the premises are true and the conclusion is true. Tuberculosis is a disease. Of course, tuberculosis is a disease. That's true. Her father has tuberculosis. That's true also. For example. And then, thus her father has a disease. So the sequence is correct and the inference is valid. Identifying the premise and the conclusion. So how do you know the difference between the premise and the conclusion? Okay. In the say, an entire argument may be presented as a single sentence, but often several sentences are used to present it. Its conclusion may either precede or follow the premises, or it may come between the two of them. The following are examples of arguments presented as a simple sentence. Take note of the position of the underlined conclusions. No, underlined if you base on your PDF in the canvas. But here I'm not using underlining, but oftentimes color coding. So examples here. He was absent because he was very ill. So this is only one sentence, but there is reasoning here. Uh, or you can say, because he was very ill, so you just inverted it, he was absent. He could not go to school or he could not attend the class. No. Okay. Now, since the weather is unfavorable, the picnic will be postponed. This is future tense. No? So it presupposes that if the weather is good, then we can go to the sea or to the resort and have a picnic. So this is only one sentence, but it contains within it a conclusion. Usually, this is used in our day-to-day conversation. If you can observe, class, we don't follow the major premise, the minor premise, and the conclusion in our day-to-day conversation, or else parang parang ano yun, jahe o parang uncomfortable tayo niyan. No? So in view of the fact that her wallet was stolen, I conclude that he cannot promise to pay on time. Okay, just like your example last time. No? So you just say, with the view that since Filipinos cannot afford highly expensive vaccines or remdesivir, which is 35,000, Filipinos therefore choose to use ivermectin, which is proven to be highly effective, and it costs only 35 pesos. So you have one sentence and you have the conclusion in it already. Okay. The following are examples of arguments presented in multiple sentences. Take note of the position of underlined conclusions. Okay, I made this. Whatever is good is from God, but life is good. Thus, life is from God. Correct? Right. Okay. There's the valid sequence. Hmm? Sabihin mo, oh, about the disease. Is disease good? Bad. Is disease created by God? No, created by those who created the Wuhan virus or COVID. That's not created by God. No, okay. How about many things in life? No, many things in life which are evil are committed by persons. No, who choose to live a evil way of life. No, okay. How about the demon? No? The demon was not created by God. The demon abused his freedom as a good angel, therefore he made himself into a demon. Okay. Next. Uh, mhm. Several sophomores approached me. No? Example ito ng co-teacher ko. To report errors in the checking of the papers. I may infer, I may conclude, I may reason that some students are honest. No? Some students, no? They have even requested that points be deducted from their scores. No? Yan. Ako, if they are really honest, sabihin nila, sir, deduct from my score. Okay, deduct ko, halimbawa, sa pagkakamali mo, but I will give plus points sa honesty mo. So, parang wala ring deduction, okay? Because honesty is a good virtue. Among beings, the greatest is existing. No? Beings in metaphysics means anything that exists, whether visible or invisible. No? Ang virus, invisible naman sa atin, right? No? So, unless you use a microscope. God is the greatest of all beings. Therefore, God exists. Yan. I just modified the argument of Saint Anselm of Canterbury in the 10th century AD. No, he argues that God exists because among beings there is a gradation, no? From the lowest to the highest, and the highest being is God. Therefore, God exists. So next, examples of conclusion indicators. No, therefore, hence, thus, so, accordingly, conclusion yan. No? Close na yan. Hindi yung opinion na open pa, no? Conclusion. Okay. Premise. Since, because, for, us. Yan. Kung sa grammar, ito, transitional words, no? Since, because, etc. No? It can mean also words used for dependent clauses. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the two kinds of logic, no? Deductive and inductive logic, no? Or deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is used in philosophy and in arguments, and inductive logic or reasoning is usually used in scientific experiments. No? There is a strength and a weakness in each of these kinds of reasoning. Deductive and inductive logic. Deductive logic is a system of reasoning whereby a person argues from universal or general truth to particular, or from the more to the less universal, particular, or specific by way of middle term. We argue, for example, that all men are rational beings. So this is the major premise. This is a generalization. No? Lahat naman ng tao gifted by God with intelligence. No? But Filipinos are men. Therefore, Filipinos are rational beings. Correct? Yan. So this is philosophical or deductive way of reasoning. Yan. So all men are mortal. We are men and women. Therefore, we shall all die, whether by old age, by accident, by COVID, or anything. No, the important thing is that we are ready to face our Creator. Uh, Inductive logic is the direct opposite of deductive logic. Here, reasoning starts from sufficiently enumerated individual or specific cases or observations and moves to the universal general truth. This is used by science. No? Science kasi there is first the hypothesis, then the experimentation, more experimentation, then generalization. But the generalization is not 100% perfect actually. No, it can just say, therefore I conclude that it may be 90% or 95%, some but not all. No, for example, one will argue that Ilonggos are courageous. No, they are from Iloilo, Ilonggos. Negrenses, tayo from Negros, Negrenses. Cebuanos of Cebu. Tagalogs, Warais, Maranaos, Taosogs from Mindanao, and all other ethnic Filipinos are courageous. One will therefore conclude that based on the observation of all ethnic Filipinos, most probably all Filipinos are courageous. You cannot say that therefore all Filipinos are courageous because mayroon naman talagang Filipino na ano ito na matakutin no. Yung iba na matay kaagad sa COVID because takot, no, na heart attack, not because of COVID but because of negative thinking or depression, etc. No? So ito lang makaya ng science, most probably. No? For example, itong ivermectin, no? Pasensya na. ay focus on ivermectin. 22 countries nag-experiment nito. So thousands upon thousands of patients affected by COVID and even animals din, no? And it was shown that 5,000 times it killed the viruses, especially the COVID. Therefore, most probably, this is the most effective medicine against COVID. Hindi naman tayo nagsasabi na 100% talaga, but according to the experimentation, according to studies, no? Kasi every medicine may side effect yan eh. Kahit yung anti-fever mo eh. Kung may side effect yan, no? Lahat naman may side effect na. So, but the side effect of ivermectin is even lower than aspirin. No? So, you see how safe it is. The following are examples of deductive and inductive logic. Deductive logic, general to specific. Ah, symbolic logic. All x are y, b is x, therefore b is y. Example niyan. All men are thinking beings. Filipinos are men. Therefore, Filipinos are thinking beings. No? Okay. So, sabihin mo, balik mo yan dyan. Let X be Filipinos. Let Y be thinking beings. Let B be Filipino. And X is all beings. Therefore, you see the example here is uh, Filipinos are thinking beings. Okay? A being that has a beginning is created by someone, no? Whether living or non-living being. A table, non-living. No? Okay. An example, human beings. No? Human beings did not create themselves. Adam and Eve did not create themselves. They were created by someone. Okay. The universe, according to the Big Bang theory, had a beginning, no? From the smallest particle. No? Then, after the Big Bang, it condensed into universe. Therefore, the universe is created by someone. If you post me more, who is that someone? Of course, not human beings. No human being can create the universe. Only God. Mm. Inductive logic, specific to general. LaSalle has a library, no? And then UP or University of the Philippines has library. Ateneo has a library. Therefore, all universities have libraries, no? I added universities kasi in your PDF examples there. Therefore, all of them have libraries. And them, hindi na-specify na universities or colleges yun. No? The Father is a person. The Son is a person having a will and intellect. That's the meaning of person. The Holy Spirit is a person having will and intellect. Therefore, there are three persons. So, in one God, no? Just like the three-in-one coffee, no? Okay. That's the end of the show. End of slideshow. Do you have any question, class? Stop share. Then, mm, screen share. Ganito. Uh, do you have anything to clarify? Or shall we end everything here? No. Coding. Okay. And more. Stop recording.